The night was colder than usual in downtown Chicago. The glass towers reflected the pale glow of the streetlights, and inside one of those towers, the Lockwood Corporation headquarters, a billionaire CEO named sat in his corner office. Buried under the glow of spreadsheets and silence, he had everything most people could only dream of: power, money, influence. Yet, lately, he felt hollow. His father used to say, "The higher you climb, the harder it is to see what's below." Ethan hadn't understood that until that night. It was almost midnight when Ethan decided to leave. The janitorial crew had just started their shift. He rarely noticed them, but tonight, something drew his attention to Samir, an older janitor with calm eyes and a quiet smile who always greeted everyone with a gentle, "Good evening." Ethan had seen him around for years, but had never spoken more than a polite nod. As Ethan walked toward the elevator, a sudden crash echoed through the lobby, followed by shouting. 3 masked men stormed in, waving guns. "Everyone on the floor," one of them yelled. Ethan froze. His heartbeat thundered in his chest. He dropped to his knees behind a reception desk, his designer suit brushing the marble floor, papers scattered everywhere. He could hear the men demanding money from the security guard, threatening anyone who moved. And then, through the chaos, Ethan saw him. Samir, the janitor, wasn't hiding. He wasn't panicking. He stood near the vending machine, his mop still in his hand, eyes steady, calm, almost peaceful. "Hey, you, old man, don't move!" one of the robbers shouted, pointing the gun at him. Samir slowly raised his hands. "It's okay," he said softly. "Take what you need. No one needs to get hurt." His voice was steady, reassuring, as if he was the one in control, not the man with the gun. Something about his tone made the robber hesitate. Samir continued, "I've been where you are, son. Fear makes you do things you'll regret, but it's not too late to walk out." Ethan watched, stunned. The robber's hands trembled. Samir took a small step closer. "No one here wants to stop you. But don't make this your story. Don't make this your end." Silence. Then, one of the robbers lowered his gun. Another followed. Within minutes, the police arrived. Someone had triggered the silent alarm. The robbers were taken away without a single shot fired. The entire building was shaken, but no one was hurt. And Ethan couldn't stop thinking about that janitor, the man who stayed calm while everyone else fell apart. The next morning, Ethan called Samir to his office. "Do you know," Ethan began, "that you might have saved everyone in that lobby last night?" Samir smiled humbly. "I just did what anyone should do, sir. I've seen fear destroy good people. Sometimes all it takes is one calm voice to stop the noise." Ethan looked at him closely. "You spoke like someone who's seen a lot." Samir nodded. "Used to be a teacher, back home in Syria. Lost my family in the war, came here to start over. Cleaning floors isn't glamorous, but it's honest work. Peace is all I want now." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The man he'd barely noticed for years had shown more leadership, empathy, and courage in 5 minutes than he had in decades. The next week, the world found out about what happened, because Ethan made sure of it. At a company-wide meeting, broadcast live online, Ethan Lockwood stood before thousands of employees and said, "True leadership isn't about your title or your wealth. It's about your heart. Last week, a man taught me that." Then he turned towards Samir, who stood awkwardly at the side of the stage, still wearing his janitor's uniform. Ethan smiled. "Samir reminded me what humanity looks like in its purest form. So today, I'm announcing something new. The Samir Foundation for Peace and Education, dedicated to providing scholarships and rebuilding schools for refugee children around the world." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Samir's eyes filled with tears. Ethan continued, "And the man who inspired it will be its director." The audience rose to their feet in applause. Cameras flashed. Samir stood frozen, overwhelmed. Later, when reporters asked him what he thought of becoming the face of a global foundation, he simply said, "I was just doing my job. We all can, if we remember to stay calm, stay kind, and see each other as human." Months passed. The foundation grew rapidly, helping thousands of children rebuild their lives. Ethan and Samir became close friends. 2 men from completely different worlds, bound by one extraordinary night. One day Ethan asked, "Samir, that night, how were you so calm? Weren't you afraid?" Samir smiled, eyes soft. "Of course I was afraid. But fear only wins when you let it silence your kindness." Ethan never forgot those words. Years later, when people spoke of Ethan Lockwood, they didn't talk about his billions. They talked about that night. The night he saw a janitor stay calm during a robbery, and learned what true wealth really means. Months after that unforgettable night, the world couldn't stop talking about the Samir Foundation. News outlets called it a revolution born from kindness. Interviews with both Ethan Lockwood and Samir were broadcast across major networks, CNN, BBC, CBC, and people everywhere were captivated by the story of a billionaire CEO and a humble janitor who changed each other's lives. But for Ethan, the fame wasn't the point. He'd spent his entire life building an empire, skyscrapers, tech startups, global mergers. Yet none of those things had ever filled the quiet emptiness he felt when he went home at night. Now, for the first time in decades, he felt purpose. Every morning, he'd visit the foundation's office, where children's drawings covered the walls. Some had written letters. "Thank you, Mr. Samir. Thank you for giving us school again." Ethan would watch as Samir sat among them, talking softly, laughing with the children, helping them draw flags of the countries they came from. Ethan saw something in him that he'd forgotten existed in people: hope without ego. One afternoon, as they stood by the window overlooking the city, Ethan asked, "Do you ever think about going back, Samir, to Syria?" Samir's eyes softened. "Every day," he said quietly. "But sometimes going back isn't about returning to a place. It's about bringing a piece of it forward." That sentence hit Ethan harder than any business deal ever could. He realized that for years, he'd been running, chasing the next goal, the next success, the next zero in his bank account. But he'd forgotten why he started. That night, he couldn't sleep again. He sat at his desk, scrolling through news clips of Samir's speech at the foundation opening. The janitor, the man the world once overlooked, was now being called the calm hero. Ethan smiled, and for the first time in a long time, he felt proud, not of his wealth, but of his change. 2 weeks later, something unexpected happened. A young man came to the foundation's office, holding a small envelope. He was one of the robbers from that night. Everyone froze when they saw him, but Samir stood up slowly, calm as ever. "I came to apologize," the man said, his voice trembling. "You were right. Fear makes you do stupid things. I wanted to say thank you for not hating me." He handed Samir the envelope. Inside was a letter and a small stack of bills. "It's all I have. I want it to go to the kids." The tears welled in Samir's eyes. He placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. "You've already given them something more valuable than money," he said softly. "You've given them proof that people can change."